There's something oddly peaceful about walking into a coffee shop alone. The soft hum of the espresso machine, the low chatter of people wrapped in their own worlds, the warm aroma of roasted beans. It's almost like stepping into a different dimension. Today, I didn't come here looking for anything. No plans, no meetings, just me, a book tucked under my arm, and the vague hope that maybe, just maybe, I could lose myself for a little while. I ordered my usual, black coffee, no sugar, no fuss. Found a corner by the window, the perfect spot for people watching without feeling exposed. My world narrowed down to the words on the page, the soft jazz floating in the air, and the occasional hiss of steamed milk. It was quiet, predictable, safe. Until she walked in. She didn't just enter the coffee shop, she owned it the moment she appeared. Her hair caught the sunlight like it had been spun from gold. Her laugh, yes, I heard it before I even saw her, was infectious, a melody that made the room feel brighter. She moved to the counter, scanning the menu, and for a fleeting second, our eyes met. Something unexplainable passed between us, a spark that shouldn't have existed, but undeniably did. I tried to go back to my book, tried to focus on the plot, but it was impossible. Every sip of coffee suddenly tasted bland compared to the warmth radiating from across the room. And then it happened. She smiled at the barista in that way that made you forget how to breathe. I caught a glimpse of her hands, delicate and graceful, wrapping around the cup as if holding a piece of her soul. That's when it hit me. I didn't know her name. I didn't know if she even noticed me. But somehow, she had already ordered my heart, and I didn't even see it coming. I tell myself it's ridiculous. Stranger. Coffee shop. One fleeting glance. And yet, there's a pull, magnetic and insistent. My mind races with what-ifs, with possibilities, with dreams I haven't dared to name yet. The quiet safety of my morning has vanished, replaced with a delicious, terrifying anticipation. I didn't expect her to notice me. I mean, why would a girl who seemed to belong to sunlight and laughter see me, a quiet stranger hiding behind a book? But the universe has a funny way of surprising you when you least expect it. She glanced my way again, this time with something in her eyes that made my chest tighten, a curious mix of mischief and warmth. When she finally walked over, I could feel every heartbeat in my ears. "Is this seat taken?" she asked, her voice soft, melodic, yet carrying a subtle confidence. I scrambled to shake my head, words betraying me as usual. My hands fumbled with my cup, spilling just a drop of coffee, and she laughed, a sound that made the clatter of the coffee shop fade into nothing. We talked, or maybe I should say, she talked, and I listened, utterly captivated. She had this way of speaking, painting the most ordinary things like choosing a coffee blend or noticing the way sunlight falls on a table, as if they were tiny adventures. I found myself leaning in, hanging on every word, my own voice shyly joining in when she gave me the space to speak. Time warped. Minutes turned into hours, or maybe it was just the illusion of a world where only the two of us existed. She asked about my day, my favorite books, even the silliest little things that most people would ignore. And with each word, each glance, each smile, the invisible thread between us grew stronger. At some point, I realized she wasn't just beautiful, though she was, but utterly magnetic, the kind of presence that rearranges the air around you, makes you want to reveal pieces of yourself you've never shown anyone. And as she reached for her coffee, our fingers brushed. A spark. Not metaphorical this time, but real, a jolt that made me gasp quietly. Somehow, in a corner of a coffee shop, amidst the hum of machines and chatter, the world felt like it had paused just for us. And I couldn't stop thinking, maybe this accidental meeting, this chance encounter, was exactly the kind of story I had been waiting for without even knowing it. There's a moment in life when you meet someone and everything else seems to blur. The world softens at the edges, and suddenly, every detail about them becomes unforgettable. Her laugh, the tilt of her head when she listens, the way her eyes crinkle when she smiles. I couldn't stop noticing. And it terrified me because it wasn't just attraction, it was something deeper, something I hadn't felt in a long time. We talked about trivial things at first, music, movies, the best pastry in the shop, but slowly, the conversation shifted. She asked me about my dreams, my fears, and I found myself opening up in a way I hadn't expected. The walls I usually carried around me, the ones built from habit, shyness, and self-protection, crumbled, piece by piece. She didn't push. She just listened, truly listened, and that made me feel seen. I noticed how often she looked at me, not just with curiosity, but with a warmth that made my pulse race. I caught myself laughing at my own awkward jokes, leaning a little closer than necessary, just to feel her presence more. And then, the coffee shop, the very same space that had felt safe and ordinary, suddenly seemed electric, charged with possibilities I couldn't ignore. When she excused herself to grab another drink, I caught a glimpse of her reflection in the glass door. For a second, I saw her just as she was, glowing, effortless, captivating. And that's when it hit me. I was falling, slowly, irresistibly, and completely. And the thought of leaving that coffee shop without her, without even knowing her name, felt unbearable. By the time she returned, carrying her cup like a delicate treasure, my heart was already racing. We exchanged a glance, one that lingered too long to be casual. I wanted to ask her out. I wanted to say something, anything, that would make this more than just a fleeting encounter. But the words stuck in my throat, trapped behind the barrier of hope and fear. And then she smiled, the kind of smile that melts hesitation, and I realized I didn't have to say anything. Sometimes a look, a moment, is enough to speak louder than words. By now, the coffee shop no longer felt like a public space. It felt like our own little world, cocooned in warmth, laughter, and the subtle electricity between us. Every movement she made, every flicker of expression, drew me in. I tried to act casual, to keep my composure, but the truth was obvious even to me. I was completely captivated. She leaned over to show me something on her phone, and our fingers brushed again. This time, I didn't pull away. I let the contact linger, just a second longer than necessary, savoring the spark it sent through me. There was no awkwardness, no forced tension, just a silent acknowledgement that we were both feeling the same pull. We laughed at each other's jokes, teasing lightly, the kind of playful banter that feels intimate because it's unguarded. She told me about her favorite little spots in the city, her quirks, the weird things that made her happy. And I shared my own little worlds, the hidden corners of my life that I rarely let anyone see. With every word, every shared secret, the invisible thread between us wound tighter, stronger, almost tangible. At one point, she tilted her head and asked, softly, "Do you come here often?" It wasn't the usual polite question. It was loaded, curious, almost vulnerable. I laughed nervously, admitting that I usually didn't, but something about today, about this moment, made it feel different. She smiled knowingly, as if she already understood, and my chest tightened with something I couldn't name. And then came a silence, not uncomfortable, but charged. We didn't need to fill it. Just being near her, sharing the same air, was enough. My eyes traced hers, memorizing the color, the way they crinkled at the corners, the unspoken invitation in her gaze. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just attraction. It was connection, rare and unexpected, the kind that sweeps in and refuses to let go. When she finally stood to leave, our hands met in a brief, lingering touch at the door. A spark, electric and undeniable, passed through me. And I realized with a thrill and a shiver that I would follow her anywhere. Even if it was just to the counter for another coffee. As she walked toward the door, I realized I couldn't let this moment end. Something inside me urged me forward, a quiet, persistent voice saying, "Don't let this slip away." I stood up, heart pounding, and caught her before she could leave. "Wait," I said, my voice slightly shaky, but enough to get her attention. She turned, eyebrows raised, a soft, curious smile playing on her lips. That smile, the one that had unknowingly stolen my heart, made every nerve in my body tingle. "Yes," she asked, gentle but expectant, as if daring me to take a leap I hadn't dared before. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I don't know if this is too forward, but can I see you again? Maybe, not here, but somewhere else." My words sounded clumsy even to me, but the hope behind them was pure, undeniable. Her smile widened, and for a heartbeat, the world stopped again. Then she took my hand, not hesitantly, not cautiously, but firmly, confidently, and said, "I'd like that." Just like that, the uncertainty vanished, replaced by a connection that felt natural, inevitable. My chest swelled, and for the first time that morning, the coffee in my hand tasted irrelevant, because this spark, this warmth, was far more intoxicating. We stepped out together into the soft light of the afternoon, a subtle brush of fingers turning into a tentative intertwining of hands.